High above the crimson dunes of Zintra 7, where twin suns painted the sky in molten gold and deep violet twilight lingered like a whispered secret, rose the towering spires of the Celestial Spire, the royal palace of the Vathari Dominion. Constructed from shimmering moonstone and infused with living light, the palace pulsed with ancient energy, its halls echoing with the soft hum of gravity-defying fountains and the silent footsteps of elite guards clad in iridescent armor. At its heart lived Queen Lysara, a regal figure with skin like emerald moss and hair that flowed like liquid silver, cascading down her back in waves that seemed to catch starlight even indoors. Her presence commanded reverence, not just for her power over the Dominion's vast fleet of sky galleons and thought-driven war machines, but for the cold precision with which she ruled, a perfectionist who believed emotion was the flaw that weakened civilizations. And yet, within that fortress of order and tradition, a spark of rebellion stirred, her daughter, Princess Nyra. Nyra was unlike any Vathari royal before her. Though she shared her mother's green-hued skin and luminous white hair, there was a warmth in her eyes, a flicker of mischief behind their opal glow that no royal tutor could extinguish. While others in the court meditated on logic streams and debated quantum diplomacy, Nyra sneaked into the lower archives to study forbidden texts, legends of compassion, stories of love between species, and most dangerously, accounts of humans. To the Vathari, humans were primitive, chaotic, barely evolved creatures from a dusty blue planet called Earth, known more for their wars than their wisdom. But Nyra saw something else in their history, in their music, their art, their stubborn hope. She dreamed not of conquest or cosmic balance, but of connection. And so, one night, when the twin moons aligned and the palace sensors dimmed during the hour of stillness, she slipped through a forgotten service passage, disguised in a drifter's cloak woven from shadow silk, and vanished into the neon-drenched undercity beneath the spire. The undercity of Zintra 7 was a world apart, loud, smelly, alive. Bioluminescent fungi clung to cracked walls, casting eerie glows on traders hawking synthetic spices and stolen tech. Winged reptilian messengers darted between hanging walkways, and the air buzzed with a dozen languages, including broken galactic common. Here, law bent like reeds in wind, and survival depended less on rank and more on wit. It was also home to outcasts. Aliens stripped of citizenship, criminals, refugees, and yes, even the rare human who'd somehow survived the interstellar journey without dying of oxygen shock or being captured by slavers. And among them lived Jax Torin. Jax wasn't tall, wasn't built like a warrior, and certainly didn't look like a hero. He had messy brown hair that never stayed flat, a crooked nose from a bar fight he still claimed was self-defense, and a permanent smirk that made people either want to punch him or be his friend. A mechanic by trade and a joker by nature, Jax had been stranded on Zintra 7 5 years earlier when his smuggling freighter, the Dusty Comet, got caught in a plasma storm and crash-landed in the salt flats. Since then, he'd scraped by fixing hoverbikes, selling bootleg translation chips, and avoiding the Dominion patrols who considered all unregistered humans illegal contraband. He lived in a rusted hull of an old cargo pod suspended over a bubbling thermal vent, where the heat kept the place warm and the stench kept most visitors away. He liked it that way, mostly, except lately he'd started talking to a rubber chicken named Clucky, which he insisted was a gift from a psychic space pig. It probably wasn't. When Nyra first stumbled into Jax's repair shop, a cluttered den filled with sparking wires, half-dismantled drones, and Clucky perched proudly on a shelf, she looked like a ghost. Her disguise was good, but not perfect. The way she moved, with unnatural grace, the faint shimmer of her skin under the flickering lights, the way her eyes scanned everything like a computer analyzing threats. It all screamed royalty. Jax, wiping grease off his hands with a rag that hadn't been clean since the last ice age, squinted at her. "You lost, Glitterfingers?" he asked, tossing the rag aside. "This ain't the spa district. Also, if you're here to arrest me, can we do it after lunch? I've got a date with a questionable meat pie." Nyra blinked. "I require repairs," she said, voice low and melodic, like wind through crystal trees. "Everything needs repairs around here," Jax said, already turning to inspect a sputtering engine core, "including my will to live." "What's broken?" "My personal shield generator," she said, pulling a small disc from her sleeve. "It short-circuited during descent." Jax took it, turned it over in his fingers. "Ha! Military-grade tech. Expensive. Illegal, probably. You a spy?" "No," she said too quickly. Then, softer. "Just someone who wants to be unseen." He looked up, met her eyes. There was something in them, not fear, not pride, but loneliness. Deep, quiet, familiar. He shrugged. 50 credits. I have no credits. Figures. Got food? Alcohol? A mildly interesting life story. She hesitated, then reached into her cloak and pulled out a smooth, glowing fruit the color of sunrise. Centralian sun peach. Grown only in the royal orchards. Jax whistled. Okay. Now I know your trouble. He took the fruit, bit into it. Juice dripped down his chin. Tastes like heaven lied to me and said it cared. He wiped his face. All right, Glitterfingers. You've got yourself a mechanic. And so began the strangest friendship Zintra 7 had ever seen. Naira returned daily, always in different disguises. Sometimes as a data runner, once as a singing street performer, badly. Another time as a sanitation drone operator, even worse. Each visit, she brought odd treasures from the palace. A vial of singing dust, a self-warming blanket, a tiny robot that danced to classical earth music. In return, Jax fixed her gear, taught her slang, no, affirmative, is not how you say yes in casual convo, and introduced her to human things, like bubble tea, which she loved, horror movies, which she screamed through, and sarcasm, which she mastered frighteningly fast. One rainy evening, as acid-green droplets pattered against the metal roof of his pod home, Jax found Naira sitting cross-legged on a pile of spare tires, reading a dog-eared copy of Pride and Prejudice. You serious? He said, flopping onto a sagging couch. You'd rather read about rich people not dating than watch space pirates of the nebula? This, she said, holding up the book, is about societal expectations, emotional repression, and the quiet rebellion of choosing love over duty. It's beautiful, Jax snorted. Sounds like your mom's autobiography. Naira went very still. He froze. Sorry. Didn't mean. No, she said softly. You're right. She is like that. She believes feelings are inefficient, that love makes leaders weak, that our bloodline must remain pure, untouched by lesser species. She looked at him. That includes humans. Jax leaned forward. So why are you here, Naira? Really? She didn't answer at first. Instead, she reached up and unwound the silver coil from her hair. As it fell loose, the room seemed to brighten, as if her very presence emitted light. Because I don't want to be a queen who rules from a tower. I want to feel, to laugh without calculating the social impact, to touch someone and not worry about contamination protocols. She paused. To choose. Jax stared. Not because she was stunning, though she was, but because of the courage it took to say those words. He'd spent years running from responsibility, hiding in jokes and greasy meals. And here was a princess, born to absolute power, risking everything just to be seen. Well, he said, grinning weakly, if you're choosing, maybe start with not calling me mechanic. Name's Jax. Jax Torin. Professional disaster. Part-time genius. She smiled. Jax. The name hung in the air like a promise. But promises, especially fragile ones forged in shadows, rarely survive the light. 2 nights later, the alarms came. Not the usual undercity brawls or police raids, but the deep, resonant chime of the Dominion enforcers. Black armored figures descended from hovering skiffs, their helmets scanning the streets with thermal pulses. Posters flickered to life on public screens. A sketch of a green-skinned woman with white hair, labeled Princess Naira, unauthorized departure. Return for re-education. The word re-education sent a chill through the district. Everyone knew what that meant. Neural resets, memory wipes, exile to the quiet towers where royalty who disobeyed were harmonized back into compliance. Jax saw the poster. His stomach dropped. He tore through the winding alleys, dodging patrol drones, until he reached the hidden alcove where Naira had set up a temporary shelter using a cloaked energy field. She was there, packing a small bag, her face pale but determined. They found me, she said. Yeah, no kidding, Jax snapped, pacing. Your face is on every trash can in the sector. We gotta move. Now. And go where? My mother controls every shipyard, every portal, every escape route. If I leave Zintra 7, they'll hunt me across galaxies. So we stay. Hide. I know people, smugglers, rebels, guys who owe me favors. Favors? She said, raising an eyebrow. Like the time you helped Borvak the Hutt get his belly unstuck from a doorway? He thanked me. With a sandwich. This isn't a joke, Jax. It has to be. He shot back. If we take this seriously, we lose. Fear wins. Paranoia wins. Your mom wins. So we laugh. We plan. We outsmart the space Nazis like it's a bad sitcom. Naira stared at him. Then, despite everything, she laughed. A bright, clear sound that cut through the tension like sunlight. You're insane, she said. Completely. But I'm your kind of insane. She stepped forward, took his hand. Then let's be insane together. They vanished into the maze of the Undercity just as the enforcers stormed the block. Using a network of tunnels Jax had mapped during years of dodging debt collectors and angry ex-clients, they slipped beneath the city's foundations into the geothermal tunnels, a labyrinth of steam vents, crumbling pipes, and forgotten maintenance shafts that even the Dominion avoided. It was hot, claustrophobic, and smelled faintly of sulfur and regret. Halfway through, Naira stumbled, clutching her side. You okay? Jax asked, turning. I'm fine, she said, but her breath was shallow. Just... The descent must have aggravated the injury. Injury? Jax frowned. You didn't say you were hurt. When I escaped, she admitted. A guard fired a neural disruptor. It grazed me. It's minor. Minor? You're glowing weird. Indeed. Her skin flickered with faint pulses of green light, like a failing battery. Jax cursed under his breath. We need a med station. There's one 2 levels up, run by a guy named Doc Grizik. He's got 3 eyes and 0 ethics, which makes him perfect for us. Lead the way. Navigating the tunnels was brutal. Steam hissed from broken valves. Gravity fluctuated in patches due to unstable core taps. Once, they had to crawl through a narrow pipe while a swarm of mechanical beetles, designed to eat corrosion, buzzed past, nearly stripping Jax's shirt off. They liked my style, he insisted. Finally, they reached a dim chamber lit by flickering biogel lamps. In the center sat Doc Grizik, a squat alien with leathery purple skin, 3 yellow eyes that blinked independently, and a mouth full of rotating teeth designed for grinding metal. He was repairing a cybernetic leg with a spoon. Jax, he rumbled. You owe me 12 credits and a left kidney. Only 11. And the kidney's pending. Grizik sniffed the air. You brought a royal. Smells like privilege and poor life choices. She's hurt, Jax said. Disruptor burn. Can you fix it? Grizik examined Naira's side with a claw-like scanner. Vathery biosignature. High-grade neural residue. Dangerous. Expensive to treat. How expensive? 50 credits. Or, he grinned, revealing spinning molars. One of your memories. Jax groaned. Not this again. Last time I traded a memory, I forgot my own birthday. Worth it, Grizik said. You stopped crying. Naira placed a hand on Jax's arm. I'll pay. You don't have credits. I have something better. She reached into her cloak and pulled out a small, pulsing orb. The Heartstone Shard, a fragment of the royal power core, capable of energizing entire cities. This should cover it. Grizik's eyes widened. All 3 of them dilated at once. Where did you get that? Does it matter? Can you heal her? He nodded slowly. Yes, but this is treason-level artifact. Possession alone is punishable by orbital drop. Then don't get caught, Jax said, grinning. You're good at that. The procedure was quick but intense. Grizik used a humming wand of blue energy to draw the disruptor's residual charge from Naira's body, which writhed and sparked like a live wire. Jax held her hand the whole time, muttering stupid jokes to keep her calm. Did you hear about the alien who walked into a bar? He said. Turns out, the bar was actually a sentient cloud. Very awkward. Naira groaned. That's not even a real joke. It is now. Comedy evolves. Baby. When it was over, she collapsed into his arms, exhausted but healed. Grizik pocketed the shard with trembling claws. You too, he said, are going to get yourselves killed. Probably, Jax agreed. But not today. They left before dawn, slipping into the upper market district disguised as off-world traders. But the Dominion's net was tightening. Patrols doubled. Surveillance drones swarmed like metallic locusts. And then the broadcast. Queen Lysara appeared on every screen, her image projected across the sky itself via orbital projectors. Towering and majestic, her silver hair flowing like a river of stars, she spoke in a voice that vibrated through bone. To my people, she intoned, my daughter, Princess Naira, has been misled by outside influences. She has abandoned her duties, violated sacred laws, and endangered the purity of our lineage. She is to be returned unharmed, but accountable. Any who aid her will be treated as enemies of the Dominion. The crowd murmured. Some looked sympathetic, others fearful. A few spat on the ground at the mention of betrayal. Jax watched from a rooftop, heart pounding. She really doesn't get it, does she? Naira stood beside him, silent. Tears glistened in her eyes, but her jaw was set. She thinks I'm broken, she whispered. But I'm not. I'm just different. We all are, Jack said. That's what makes us worth saving. They couldn't stay in the city. The safe houses were compromised. The smuggler contacts had gone silent. Even Clucky seemed nervous, tilting his rubber head toward the sky like he sensed doom. Their only hope lay beyond Zintra 7, to flee to the outer rim, where Dominion law thinned like mist. But to leave they needed a ship, and the only one nearby was the Dusty Comet, Jax's wrecked freighter, still buried in the salt flats where it had crashed. It's a death trap, Naira said as they trekked across the endless white desert under the blazing twin suns. Half the hull's melted. The engines are slag. Hey, she's got heart, Jack said, shielding his eyes. And a working toilet. Mostly. It smells like despair and burnt toast. That's character. After 3 days of trudging through sandstorms and evading roving scout drones, they reached the crash site. The Dusty Comet lay half-buried. Its nose plunged into a dune, wings cracked like broken bones. Solar panels flapped uselessly in the wind. But inside, the core reactor still hummed faintly. She's alive, Jack said, patting the wall like it was a loyal pet. If you call near-total system failure alive, we'll fix her. Together. For 2 weeks they worked. Jack scavenged parts from dead ships in the wreckage field. Naira used her knowledge of Vathri engineering to rewire circuits and stabilize the fusion drive. They argued over schematics, laughed over failed attempts to reboot the NAV computer, which responded only to insults in ancient Martian, and shared stories under the stars. Jax about growing up in a floating city on Europa, Naira about sneaking into the palace gardens to talk to the bioluminescent moths. One night, as they sat on the ship's wing eating nutrient paste that tasted like wet socks, Naira turned to him. Why are you doing this, Jax? You could have turned me in, collected a reward, started fresh. He looked at her, really looked. Because you're the first person who ever looked at me and didn't see a mess. You saw possibility, even when I didn't. She smiled. Maybe we both needed that. The day the engines finally roared to life, the sky trembled. The Dusty Comet shuddered, smoke pouring from its thrusters, but it lifted, wobbling, creaking, but flying. They cheered, hugged, and nearly cried when the autopilot announced, destination. Unknown, probably dangerous. Good luck. But triumph was short-lived. As they broke atmosphere, a Vathri interceptor dropped from hyperspace directly in their path. A sleek, obsidian warship bristling with weapons, its hull emblazoned with the royal crest. A voice crackled over the comms. Princess Naira, power down and return. This is your final warning. Jax gripped the controls. Oh, come on. Can't we have one happy ending? Naira stepped beside him, placing a hand on his shoulder. There's another way. What? She closed her eyes. A soft green light emanated from her chest, a resonance frequency unique to Vathri royalty. I can override their systems, disrupt their command link, but it will reveal my location, and it will take everything I have. Naira, no. You'll be drained. Vulnerable. If we don't act, we die. Or worse, captured. This is the only chance. Jax stared at her. At the woman who had left a palace of light to walk in the shadows with him, who had laughed at his terrible jokes, healed from her wounds, and still chose to fight. He nodded. Do it. She raised her hands. Energy surged through the ship. The comms exploded with static. On the view screen, the interceptor's shields flickered, then failed. Alarms blared across its bridge, but the effort cost her. Naira collapsed, her glow fading, her breath shallow. Jax caught her. Hang on. Just hang on. We're almost out. The Dusty Comet lurched forward, diving into a nearby asteroid belt, weaving through jagged rocks as the crippled interceptor struggled to follow. Debris slammed into its hull. One by one, its weapons went dark. They escaped. But as the stars stretched into streaks of light and the ship entered hyperspace, Jax held Naira in his arms, her breathing faint, her skin cool. We made it, he whispered. You did it. Her eyes fluttered open, weak, but smiling. We did. And somewhere, far behind them, Queen Lysara stood on her balcony, watching the stars, a single tear tracing a path down her green cheek. Whether from anger, sorrow, or something deeper, even she could not say. The universe stretched before them, vast and unknown. The Dominion would hunt. The odds were against them, but for the first time they weren't alone. And sometimes that's enough to begin a revolution. The dusty comet drifted through the velvet silence of deep space, its battered hull groaning with every minor shift in gravity as it coasted on minimal power. Hyperspace had spat them out near the fringes of the Glimmer Expanse. A region so remote it didn't even appear on most galactic charts. A graveyard of dead stars and forgotten colonies. The ship systems flickered like a dying firefly. Oxygen recyclers wheezed, lights dimmed unpredictably, and the coffee maker, Jax's one non-negotiable luxury, had finally given up entirely, melting into a sad puddle of plastic and regret. But they were alive. Naira lay wrapped in thermal blankets on the cot in the rear cabin, her breathing slow but steady. Her skin had lost its radiant glow, now pale and almost translucent, like moonlight filtered through fog. She hadn't spoken in 2 days. Jax sat beside her, cleaning Clucky with a damp rag. More for something to do than because the rubber chicken needed it. "You better wake up," he muttered, not looking at her. "I'm not doing this alone. I don't know how to operate that fancy alien healing thing you used. Also, I think we're out of food. And hope." He tried to smile. It didn't stick. Then, faintly, her fingers twitched. Jax froze. "Naira?" Her eyelids fluttered open. Slowly, she turned her head toward him. "You still smell like engine grease and bad decisions." He let out a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. "You're back." "I never left," she whispered. "I was just far away, like dreaming inside a star." He took her hand. It was warm again. "You saved us. You knocked out a warship with your mind. That's not normal, even for royalty." She gave a weak laugh. "It's not just mind. It's bloodline energy. Every Vathri royal carries a resonance core. It connects us to our ancestors, amplifies our will. But using it fully drains the body, almost kills us. And you did it anyway. Because of you," she said simply. "Because I chose you. Not duty. Not fear. You." Jax looked down, suddenly unable to meet her eyes. "You know I'm not Prince material, right? I once tried to fix a warp coil with duct tape and a prayer. My last relationship ended because I forgot my girlfriend's birthday. For 3 years. Naira smiled. "I don't want a prince. I want you. The man who laughs when everything's falling apart. Who fixes broken things, even when no one else cares. Who made me taste bubble tea and taught me to say, 'Shut up,' without sounding like a robot." "Well, when you put it that way," he grinned. "I am pretty great." They stayed like that, hands clasped, hearts sinking, until the ship alarm blared. "Warning. Unidentified vessel approaching. Weapons hot. Docking attempt imminent." Jax jumped up. "Oh, come on. Can't we get 1 day of peace?" He rushed to the cockpit, peering through the cracked viewscreen. Emerging from behind a floating asteroid was a sleek, silver craft, sleek, organic-looking, shaped like a crescent blade. No markings, no signals, just silent, deadly elegance. "That's not Dominion," Naira said, limping in behind him. "That's something else." Before they could react, a magnetic clamp latched onto the comet's side with a thunderous clang. Air hissed as an external tunnel sealed against the hull. "Boarding party," Jax said, grabbing a wrench. Classic move. Rude, but effective. Naira placed a hand on his arm. "Wait, I feel something. Presence. Not hostile. Familiar." "Familiar? Since when do space pirates give off vibes?" The inner airlock opened with a soft chime, and out stepped a woman. Tall, lithe, with shimmering green skin identical to Naira's, but her white hair was braided with strands of living crystal that pulsed with soft light. Her eyes, large and luminous, held centuries of wisdom. She wore a flowing robe of woven stardust fabric, and around her neck hung a pendant shaped like a spiral galaxy. "Mother!" Naira gasped. Jax dropped the wrench. "Okay, not what I expected. I thought it'd be space rats. Or tax collectors." The woman stepped forward, her voice calm, melodic, yet edged with sorrow. "I am not your mother, child. I am Silra, the last of the elder blood. Your aunt. The sister your queen imprisoned and erased from history." Naira staggered back. "Aunt? But she told me you died in the Great Schism." "She lied," Silra said. Because I believed in unity, in connection. I loved a human scholar from Earth. We had a daughter. They killed him, took her from me, called it genetic contamination. Her voice cracked. I've waited decades for someone like you to rise. Someone who remembers what love is. Jax whistled low. Family reunion just got way more dramatic. Silra turned to him. And you are Jax Torrin, the mechanic with the heart too big for his species. I've watched you both through the astral streams. You gave her courage. For that, I owe you more than words. So, you're here to help? Naira asked. I am here to offer sanctuary. My people, those who fled the purge, live beyond the Veil Nebula, in a hidden colony called Ellora, a place where Vathari and other species live as equals. No caste, no purity laws, just peace. Jax exchanged a glance with Naira. Sounds nice. Too nice. What's the catch? The Dominion already knows of Ellora, Silra admitted. They've been hunting us for years. And now, they know you exist. 2 rebels, 1 royal, 1 human, bonded by choice. To them, that's not just treason. It's extinction-level chaos. Naira straightened, strength returning to her voice. Then we fight, or we run. But we don't go back. Silra nodded. Then come, before they find us. They transferred to her ship, the Luminar, a vessel grown from biometal and starlight, humming with gentle energy. As they entered hyperspace, Jax wandered the corridors, marveling at walls that shifted color with mood and chairs that hugged you if you looked sad. This place is like a spa designed by poets, he said. It's home, Naira replied softly, but peace didn't last. 3 days later, while drifting near the edge of the Veil Nebula, the alarm sounded again. This time it wasn't a warship. It was a signal, a distress call encoded in ancient Vathari royal cipher. Only the bloodline could decode it. Naira listened, paling as the message played. Naira, if you hear this, it's your mother. The throne is gone. The High Council has seized power. They've declared me unfit. They say I've gone mad. Maybe I have. But I know one truth now. I pushed you away because I feared what I felt. Love, weakness, hope. Come back. Not for the crown. For me. For us. Before it's too late. Silence filled the room. Jax stared at Naira. She's reaching out. She could be lying, Silra warned. The council may have forced her, or replaced her with a clone, or worse, a neural puppet. But what if she's not? Naira whispered. What if she's finally seeing clearly? Jax ran a hand through his hair. So now we gotta choose. Hide in paradise, or go back into the lion's den to save the woman who wanted to erase your memories. It's not just about her, Naira said. If the council has taken over, they'll purge everyone who disagrees. Silra's people, mixed families, outcasts, millions could die. And you, Silra added, are the only heir with the resonance to challenge them. Jax groaned. So now you're not just a runaway princess. You're a revolutionary figurehead. Fantastic. Naira turned to him. You don't have to come. Stay here. Be safe. He looked at her, really looked, and then burst out laughing. What? She asked. You think I'd let you have all the fun? Who else is gonna make terrible jokes during life or death battles? Who's gonna insult the evil chancellor right before we blow up his tower? He stepped forward, took both her hands. I fell for you in a greasy repair shop, remember? I'm not leaving now. Not ever. Tears welled in her eyes. Even if I become queen? Especially then. Think of the perks. Free oil changes. Unlimited bubble tea. I called dibs on the East Wing for my junk collection. She laughed through her tears and kissed him. Soft, deep, full of promise. They prepared for war. Using Silra's intelligence network, they learned the Council had fortified the Celestial Spire with quantum shields and deployed a new weapon, the Silence Engine, a device capable of suppressing all emotional resonance in a radius of 10,000 miles. It would render Naira powerless. Worse, it would erase empathy across entire populations, turning sentient beings into obedient drones. They want to kill love itself, Silra said grimly. Then we break their toy, Jax said, grinning. I've destroyed dumber things. The plan was insane. They'd infiltrate Zintrus 7 disguised as prisoners captured by rogue bounty hunters. A role Jax nailed after spending an hour practicing looking pathetic and greasy. Silra would trigger a diversion, a false signal suggesting Ellora's location, drawing the fleet away. Meanwhile, Naira and Jax would sneak into the palace through the old geothermal vents, disable the silence engine, and confront the council during the Ascension ceremony. A ritual where they would officially crown a synthetic monarch, erasing the royal bloodline forever. The descent was brutal. Disguised in stun collars and ragged uniforms, they were dragged through the Undercity by two hulking mercenaries, who, unbeknownst to the council, were actually Silra's spies. The streets were darker now. Posters of Naira had been replaced with images of the council's faceless leaders. Patrols were everywhere. Fear hung in the air like smoke. They reached the palace's lower access shaft just as the ceremony began. Inside, the grand hall glittered with cold perfection. The council stood atop the obsidian dais, 7 figures in black robes, their faces hidden behind masks of polished void glass. Above them, suspended in energy chains, floated the silence engine, a swirling orb of dark matter, pulsing like a dead heart. Queen Lysara knelt below, stripped of her crown, her silver hair dull, her emerald skin faded, but her eyes, still fierce, still proud, burned with defiance. Then the voice of the High Chancellor echoed through the chamber. The age of emotion ends today. The age of order begins. Naira moved. With a scream of raw power, she shattered her stun collar, leaping onto the dais. Jax followed, tossing a small device Silra had given him, a resonance bomb designed to disrupt the engine. Guards fired. Energy bolts seared the air. Naira raised her hands, summoning her bloodline energy. Not to attack, but to sing. A pure, crystalline tone poured from her, reverberating through the chamber, clashing with the silence engine's hum. The two forces collided. Cracks spread across the orb. Jax dodged blasts, rolled, and slammed the bomb into the base of the machine. "Eat circuit, you overgrown night light," he yelled. The explosion wasn't loud, but the effect was. A wave of sound, color, and feeling erupted outward. The engine shattered, and with it, the suppression field collapsed. Across the city, people stopped. A mother hugged her child tighter. A street vendor laughed for the first time in years. A guard lowered his weapon, tears streaming down his face. Emotion returned. The council shrieked. Not in anger, but in fear. They weren't built for feeling. Their minds fractured under the weight of guilt, regret, love. One by one, their masks cracked. Naira stood tall, glowing brighter than ever. "You tried to erase what makes us alive, but you can't kill love." "Not really." Then silence. Queen Lysara rose. Slowly, painfully, she walked to her daughter. They faced each other, years of distance, pain, and pride hanging between them. And then, Lysara bowed. Not as a queen, as a mother. "I was wrong," she whispered. "I feared love because I lost your father to war. I thought strength meant solitude. But you showed me that true power isn't control. It's connection." Naira pulled her into a hug. The crowd, inside and outside the palace, cheered. But Jax didn't cheer, because at that moment the floor exploded. From below surged a figure clad in crimson armor. Taller than any Vathari, eyes burning red, a jagged scar across his face. He grabbed Naira, yanking her back. "Did you really think," he growled in a voice like grinding stone, "that the real enemy would let you win so easily?" Jax recognized him from old files. Corvith, the exiled general, believed dead. The man who had orchestrated the council's rise. The one who wanted not order, but conquest. And he wasn't after the throne. He was after Naira. "For the prophecy must be fulfilled," Corvith snarled. "The last royal with a human bond shall ignite the eclipse flame, and I will wield it to burn every world that defies us." He activated a teleporter. Naira screamed Jax's name as they vanished. Jax hit the ground hard, fists clenched. Lysara approached, her voice firm. "We will find her." Jax stood, dusted himself off, picked up Clucky, who had somehow survived the blast, albeit missing an eye. "Oh, we'll find her," he said, fire in his eyes. "And when we do, I've got a whole list of bad jokes ready for that overgrown space bully." The stars awaited, and this time love wasn't running. After a desperate chase across war-torn star systems, Jax and Queen Lysara led a rebellion of outcasts, humans, and rogue Vathari to the edge of the Eclipse Nebula, where Corvith held Naira captive. In a final battle among shattered moons, Naira broke free of his control not with force, but by awakening the buried humanity in him, revealing that he was her true uncle, lost and brainwashed years ago. The love he'd suppressed erupted, destroying the eclipse flame from within. With peace restored, Naira refused the throne, not to rule but to rebuild. Together with Jax, she founded the Unity Accord, A new alliance where species, bloodlines, and hearts were no longer boundaries. Years later, on a quiet hillside overlooking a glowing city built on hope, Jax and Nyra sat beneath twin sunsets. Clucky the rubber chicken, now with a tiny crown, perched between them. She leaned her head on his shoulder. "Still think you're just a mechanic?" He grinned. "Nah, I'm the husband of the most powerful woman in the galaxy." And as stars blinked awake above them, their laughter carried into the endless sky, proof that even in a universe of chaos, love, and a little grease could win the day.